The dead ships floated in the darkness like sleeping giants. Had seen them 1,000 times, but they still made him feel small. These massive hulks of metal and wire had once carried humanity to distant stars. Now they were nothing but rust and memory. Pulled himself through the zero gravity of his small salvage pod. His job was simple: find old ships, take what still worked, bring it back to Earth. The orbital authority paid well for working parts because nobody could make new ones anymore. That knowledge had died long ago, in the time people called the forgetting. 400 years had passed since that terrible day. Something had happened. Nobody knew exactly what. The computers failed. The archives burned. The engineers died by the thousands. When it was over, humanity had forgotten how to build starships. They could fix the old ones, patch them, keep them running with tape and prayers. But build new ones, that secret was lost. Guided his pod toward a cluster of asteroids. His scanner had found something strange there. A heat signature where there should be none. Probably nothing. Probably just a broken sensor. But had learned to trust his feelings, and his feelings told him to look. He moved carefully between the rocks. The asteroids here were dense, packed close together like a crowd of stone giants. His pod scraped against one, and he winced at the sound. This little ship was older than his grandfather. One bad hit and it would crack open like an egg. Then he saw it. Hidden inside the asteroid cluster, tucked away like a secret, was a ship. But not like the dead hulks floating in the graveyard. This ship was different. Its hull was smooth and clean. Its lights were on. After 400 years, its lights were still on. Forgot to breathe. He had salvaged 100 ships, maybe more. All of them were dark and dead and empty. But this one was alive. He docked his pod carefully and stepped inside. The air was stale but breathable. The corridors were narrow and lined with pipes and wires. Everything looked old but well kept, like a museum piece. On the wall, he found a name plate. He had never heard of it. Explored for hours. The ship was small, maybe room for 20 people, but it was complete. Every system worked. Every light turned on. And in the captain's quarters he found something that made his heart stop. Paper. Stacks and stacks of paper covered with drawings and numbers and words. Blueprints. Real blueprints drawn by hand showing how to build things, how to build ships. Sat down heavily. His hands were shaking. For 400 years humanity had searched for this. The knowledge they had lost, the secret to the stars. And here it was, hidden in an asteroid, waiting for someone to find it. He knew he could not do this alone. He needed help. He needed someone who understood what this meant. He needed was a historian. She spent her life studying the forgetting, trying to understand what had happened and why. Most people thought she was wasting her time. The past was dead, they said. Focus on surviving today. But believed the past held answers. And she was right. When showed her the blueprints, she cried. Real tears running down her face and floating away in the low gravity of the station. This is real, she whispered. This is real. These are construction documents, hull designs, engine specifications. This is how they built ships. Can we use them? Asked. Can we build again? Studied the pages carefully. Her excitement faded a little. Some pages are missing, important ones, but this is a start. This is more than we have ever found. They brought in Elder. He was old, older than anyone had ever met. His skin was like paper, and his eyes were clouded with age. But his mind was sharp. He was the last of the keepers, a secret order that had guarded forbidden knowledge since the forgetting. When Elder saw the blueprints, he did not cry. He did not smile. His face went pale and he sat down slowly. Where did you find this ship? He asked. Hidden in the asteroids, said. Someone put it there. Someone hid it on purpose. An elder nodded. Yes, they hid many things. They knew what was coming. What do you mean? Asked. What was coming? What caused the forgetting? The old man was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with sorrow. Oh, the forgetting was not an accident. It was not a disaster. It was an attack. Felt cold. An attack by who? By those who feared us, Elder said. By those who watched from the stars and saw what we were becoming. They decided that humanity must be stopped. So they burned our knowledge. They killed our builders. They trapped us in our own solar system like animals in a cage. She shook her head. That is impossible. We have never found proof of alien life. You have never looked in the right places. Elder pulled out a small device from his robes. It was ancient, covered in dust. He pressed a button and a hologram appeared. It showed a ship, but not a human ship. The design was wrong. The angles were strange. It looked like something from a nightmare. They call themselves the Collective, Elder said. They have watched us for 1,000 years. When we grew too strong, too fast, they decided to cut us down. The forgetting was their weapon, and it worked. Looked at the blueprints in his hands. Paper and ink. Simple things, but in that moment they felt like fire, like rebellion, like hope. There is more, said. She held up a page from the ship's log. This document mentions a location, coordinates. It says there is a facility on Callisto, a shipyard, sealed and hidden since the forgetting. The last shipyard, Elder whispered. We thought it was destroyed. We thought everything was destroyed. It is still there, said, waiting. Stood up. He looked at the old man and the young historian. He looked at the blueprints and the hologram and the tiny ship that had been hidden for 400 years. Then we go to Callisto, he said. We find the shipyard. We learn how to build again. An elder grabbed his arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. If you do this, they will know. The collective will see. They will come to stop you just as they stopped us before. Met the old man's eyes. Let them come. Let them try to stop us again. Humanity was not meant to live in a cage. He did not know if he believed his own words. He did not know if they could succeed. But he knew one thing for certain. The silent graveyard of dead ships had spoken to him today. It had shown him a path forward. and he would not turn away. The Dauntless was not a pretty ship. Her hull was covered in patches and welds. Her engines made strange sounds that worried even the most experienced engineers. But she flew, and in these dark times that was enough. Captain stood on her bridge and watched the stars. She was a hard woman, shaped by a hard life. She had been flying ships since she was 16 years old. She had seen friends die when their vessels broke apart. She had buried crew members who suffocated when life support failed. She trusted nothing and no one. But when came to her with his story, something stirred in her chest, something she had not felt in years. Hope. "You want me to take you to Callisto," she said, "to find a shipyard that may not exist, based on papers you found in a hidden ship." "Oh, yes," said simply, laughed. It was not a happy sound. "And if the collective comes, if these aliens you speak of decide to destroy us, then we die trying," said. "But we die moving forward instead of standing still." Thought about her ship, her beautiful broken ship. Every year it got harder to find parts. Every year more systems failed. In 10 years, maybe 20, the Dauntless would join the graveyard, and there would be no replacement. All right," she said. "We fly to Callisto." Her crew was small but loyal. Was her second in command, a former soldier with sharp eyes and quick hands. Hoon was the youngest, only 26, but he had a gift for machines that none of the older engineers could match. There were others, too, good people, brave people, people who deserved better than this dying world. The journey to Callisto would take 3 weeks. 3 weeks of hopping the ship held together. 3 weeks of watching the darkness and wondering what watched them back. Spent most of her time studying the blueprints. She spread them across the floor of the cargo bay and crawled between them on her hands and knees. Sometimes she laughed with joy. Sometimes she cursed with frustration. "There are gaps," she explained to one night. Someone removed pages, the most important ones. The section on faster-than-light drives is completely missing. Can we still build without them? We can build ships that travel slowly, ships that take years to reach other stars instead of days. But we cannot match what our ancestors had, not without the missing pages. Felt the weight of 400 years pressing down on him. So much lost, so much forgotten. But then he watched Hoon. The young engineer sat in the corner with a single blueprint page. He did not read it like did, analyzing each line and symbol. He simply looked at it, and somehow he understood. This is wrong, Hoon said one day, pointing to a diagram. The power flow is not efficient. If you move this connection here, you get 30% more output. So he stared at him. How do you know that? Hoon shrugged. I just see it. The design wants to work a certain way. I can feel what it wants. An elder smiled when he heard this. It was the first time had seen him smile. The gift, the old man said. Before the forgetting, we selected our engineers carefully. We looked for people who had a natural connection to machines, an intuition that could not be taught. We thought that gift died with the old builders, but it seems some seeds survived. Looked at Hoon with new eyes. You are saying he inherited this ability through his blood, through his soul, Elder said. The collective killed our teachers and burned our books, but they could not kill what lives inside us. They could not burn the spark. On the 15th day, they saw the alien ship. It appeared on their sensors suddenly, as if it had been hiding and decided to show itself. The design was exactly like the hologram Elder had shown them. Wrong angles, strange curves, a shape that made the human eye uncomfortable. They are hailing us, reported. Her voice was calm, but her hand rested on her weapon. Opened the channel. This is captain of the salvage vessel Dauntless. Identify yourself. The voice that answered was strange. It sounded almost human, but not quite. Like a very good copy made by someone who had never actually met a human. We are the collective. We have watched your species for many centuries. We are curious about your destination. Glanced at, he nodded slightly. There was no point in lying. We are traveling to Callisto, said, for salvage operations. Silence. Then the voice again, and this time there was something new in it. Amusement. You seek the old shipyard. How interesting. Your kind still dreams of building, even after all this time. We find this amusing, like watching a child try to stack blocks after you have taken most of them away. Felt anger rise in his chest. He stepped forward to the communicator. "Why did you do it?" he demanded. "Why did you destroy our knowledge? We had done nothing to you." "You had done nothing yet," the collective answered. "But we saw what you would do. We saw what you would become. A species that builds and grows and never stops spreading. In 1,000 years, you would have filled this galaxy. In 10,000, you would have reached the next one. We could not allow this. So you crippled us," said. "You murdered our engineers. You burned our libraries. You trapped us. We pruned you, like a gardener prunes a tree that grows too wild. It was necessary. It was merciful. We could have destroyed you entirely." They cut in. "And now? What do you want now?" "We want you to turn around. Go back to your dying Earth. Accept your place. The shipyard on Callisto will remain closed. Any attempt to enter it will be considered an act of war." The channel went dead. The alien ship did not attack. It simply sat there, watching, waiting. The crew gathered in the common room. Fear hung in the air like smoke. "We should go back," one of the engineers said. "We cannot fight them. You saw their ship. Their technology is beyond anything we have. If we go back, we die slowly," Hoon said. His voice was quiet but firm. "Our ships fall apart. Our people forget more and more. In 100 years, maybe less, humanity ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper." "And if we go forward?" asked. "Then we might die quickly," admitted. "But we might also live, really live, the way our ancestors did." Looked at her crew. These people trusted her. They had followed her through storms and disasters and near-death experiences. They deserved a say in this. "We vote," she said. "All hands, forward or back." One by one they voted. Some chose to turn around. Most did not. When it was done, the decision was clear. Forward it is, said. She turned to. Set course for Callisto, maximum speed. Behind them, the alien ship continued to watch. And somewhere in the vast network of the collective, a message was sent. The humans were not stopping. They were not obeying. Something would have to be done. But for now, the Dauntless flew on, toward the hidden moon, toward the sleeping shipyard, toward a future that had been stolen from them 400 years ago. And in the cargo bay, Hoon continued to study the blueprints. In his mind, machines came alive. Designs spoke to him like old friends. The spark that the collective had tried to extinguish was growing brighter. They could not stop what was coming. Callisto was a world of ice and silence. Its surface was covered in craters and cracks, and nothing had moved there for millions of years. It looked dead. It looked forgotten. It looked like the perfect place to hide something precious. The Dauntless descended through the thin atmosphere, flew carefully, her hands steady on the controls. The alien ship had not followed them into orbit. Perhaps the collective thought their warning was enough. Perhaps they were gathering forces. Either way, every moment was borrowed time. There, said, pointing at her scanner. Underground, a massive structure. The readings match what the documents described. They landed near a crater rim. The entrance to the shipyard was hidden beneath a layer of ice, but the heat from the Dauntless melted it quickly. Soon they saw a door. A huge door, tall enough for giants, marked with symbols in a language none of them recognized. Old Earth script, Elder said softly. Before the standardization, before everything became the same. This shipyard was built by people who still remembered diversity. Approached the door. There was a panel beside it, dark and cold. He touched it, and for a moment nothing happened. Then lights flickered. A hum filled the air. After 400 years of sleep, the shipyard was waking up. The door opened slowly, grinding against ice and rust. Beyond it was darkness, and then, As if greeting them, lights began to turn on, one by one, stretching into the distance, revealing something that made them all stop breathing. And it was a cathedral of machines. The ceiling rose so high it disappeared into shadow. The walls were lined with tools and equipment, each piece larger than a house. In the center stood massive frames, empty now, waiting for ships to be born inside them. Everything was covered in dust and frost, but everything was intact. They built it to last, whispered. They knew someone would come eventually. A voice spoke from everywhere at once. It was female, warm but mechanical. Identity confirmation required. Please state your purpose. We are human, said. We have come to learn, to build again. Silence. Then the voice spoke again, and this time it sounded almost sad. I am. I was created to manage this facility and to protect its knowledge. I have waited 417 years for worthy inheritors. You are the first visitors I have received. Will you help us? Asked. That depends. The last humans I knew were masters of creation. They could build ships that danced between stars. They understood the language of metal and fire. Can you say the same? Or are you merely scavengers, picking through the bones of your betters? The words hurt because they were true. Looked at his hands. These hands could fix a broken wire or patch a leaking hull, but they had never created anything. They had only maintained what others had made. We are what the collective left behind, he said. We are broken and ignorant and weak, but we want to learn. We want to rebuild what was stolen from us. It was quiet for a long moment. Then a new light turned on, deeper in the facility. There is someone who may help you. Someone who chose to sleep rather than die with the old world. I will wake him now. They followed the light to a small room filled with pods, machines of glass and metal, designed to keep people alive in frozen sleep. Most of the pods were empty or broken, but one still glowed with soft blue light. The pod opened with a hiss. Ice crystals floated in the air. and a man sat up slowly, gasping, shivering, crying. His name was. He was 45 years old when he went to sleep. Now he was still 45, but 4 centuries had passed around him. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice rough and broken. "What year is it?" "You are in the Callisto shipyard," Elder said gently. "It is the year 2847. You have been asleep for a very long time." Looked at them with empty eyes. The weight of time pressed down on him. Everyone he knew was dead. His wife, his children, his friends, his students, all dust, all memory. "Why?" he whispered. "Why did you wake me?" "Because we need you," said. "We need what you know." He laughed, but there was no joy in it. "What I know how to build ships. I know the secrets of engines and hulls and navigation systems. But what good is that? The collective one. They burned everything. There is no one left to teach." "Oh, there is you," said, "and there is him." He pointed at Hoon, who stood quietly in the corner. The young man had been staring at the walls, at the equipment, at the empty ship frames. His eyes were bright and hungry. Looked at Hoon for a long moment. Then something changed in his face. The emptiness faded. A spark of recognition appeared. "Oh, you have the gift," said. "I can see it in you. The same thing my masters saw in me, the connection." "I do not know what it is," Hoon admitted. "But when I look at machines, I understand them. They speak to me." I stood up slowly. His body was weak from centuries of sleep, but his spirit was waking up. Then perhaps the collective did not win completely. Perhaps something survived. He looked around at the group. Is this everyone? Is this all of humanity? "This is everyone who came," said. "But there are billions more on Earth and the colonies, waiting, hopping, dying slowly because they cannot build." He nodded. "Then we have work to do." The training began the next day. Was not gentle. He pushed Hoon hard, demanding perfection. But he also taught with passion. This was not just technical knowledge. It was art. It was philosophy. It was the understanding that a ship was not just metal and wire, but an extension of human will. Your ancestors did not just build machines, explained. They built dreams. Each ship was a promise that humanity would reach the stars, would find new homes, would never stop exploring. The collective tried to kill that promise, but promises do not die easily. Hoon absorbed everything like dry earth absorbing water. The knowledge that had been locked inside him for his entire life finally had words and structure. He began to understand what he had always felt. Others learned too, discovered that he had a talent for hull design, became skilled at navigation systems. Even who had never thought of herself as a builder found that she understood power management in ways she never had before. But they were not alone on Callisto. 3 weeks after they arrived, the collective came. Ships appeared in orbit, not one but dozens. They surrounded the moon like a net, blocking any escape. And then a message came through. This is your final warning. Leave the shipyard immediately. Abandon your efforts. Return to your designated space. If you do not comply within 24 hours, we will remove you by force. Lee looked at her crew. They were tired and scared and far from home. But they had also tasted something they never had before: purpose. How long until we can build something? She asked. The old engineer shook his head. To build a new ship from nothing, months at least. We do not have months. Then we find another way, said. We do not give up. We never give up. His voice filled the room. There may be an option. Deep in the facility, in the primary construction bay, something was left unfinished when the forgetting struck. It has waited 400 years for someone to complete it. Show us, said. The lights guided them deeper into the shipyard, past machines and storage rooms and empty corridors. And then they entered the primary bay, and they saw it. A ship, massive and beautiful, its hull gleaming even under centuries of dust. It was 90% complete. Engines installed, systems connected, ready to fly with just a little more work. The sunrise said it was meant to be humanity's greatest achievement. A colony ship designed to carry 10,000 people to new worlds. It was 3 days from completion when the forgetting struck. He walked toward the ship with tears in his eyes. "I remember this," he whispered. "I worked on this. My wife helped design the life support systems. Our daughter was supposed to be on the first voyage." He touched the hull gently, like greeting an old friend. The shipyard had never worked so hard. Every machine hummed, every light blazed, and in the center of it all, the sunrise slowly came back to life. Hoon moved through the engine room like a man possessed. His hands worked without stopping. His mind saw solutions before problems even appeared. The gift that had slept inside him for 26 years was now fully awake. "This coupling is degraded," he called out to. "But if we reroute through the secondary system, we can bypass it completely." He nodded, impressed despite himself. "You learn faster than any student I ever had. Your ancestors would be proud." Worked on the hull, sealing cracks that had formed during the long centuries of waiting. Programmed the navigation systems, feeding in star maps that had preserved. Even Elder helped, his old hands steady as he connected delicate wires. But time was running out. 12 hours remaining, announced. "The collective fleet has not moved, but I detect increased communication between their vessels. They are planning something." Stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, watching the enemy ships through her sensors. She knew her little salvage vessel could not fight them. One hit and they would be dust. But maybe she could buy time. Or she said, "I need you to do something dangerous." Her second in command smiled grimly. "When have we ever done anything safe?" The collective sent an ambassador. His name was Jin, and he came alone in a small shuttle. He looked almost human, but his movements were too smooth, his expressions too perfect. He was either an alien wearing a human face or something else entirely. I come to offer mercy, Jin said. He stood in the entrance of the shipyard, surrounded by humans who looked at him with hatred and fear. The collective does not wish to harm you. We never did. The forgetting was a surgical action designed to limit your growth without destroying you entirely. We could have exterminated your species. Instead, we merely pruned you. Pruned us, repeated. His fists were clenched. You killed billions. You erased our history. You stole our future. We saved the galaxy from you, Jin said calmly. You do not understand what you are. Your species grows too fast, builds too recklessly, expands without thought for consequences. In 1,000 years, you would have consumed everything. We acted to preserve balance. Balance, Elder spat. You call it balance when you cage a thinking species like animals. Jin turned to the old man with something like curiosity. You are a keeper. We thought we had eliminated your order. You preserved knowledge against our wishes. That was very rude. It was necessary, Elder said. Truth cannot be killed. It can only be hidden until someone finds it again. Jin shook his head slowly. This is why we fear you. Even when beaten, even when broken, you do not give up. You hide and wait and hope. It is admirable in a way, but it is also dangerous. What do you want? Demanded. I want you to surrender. Leave the shipyard. Return to Earth. Accept monitoring to ensure you do not try this again. In exchange, we will allow you to keep your remaining ships and live in peace within your solar system. Peace, said. He had emerged from the sunrise covered in grease and sweat. You mean prison. You want us to accept a slow death instead of a quick one. I want you to accept reality, Jin said. You cannot win. You cannot fight us. Even if you finish that ship, even if you escape this moon, you will never match our technology. You will never reclaim what you lost. The age of human expansion is over. Accept it. For a moment, no one spoke. The offer hung in the air like poison. Then a young woman stepped forward. Her name was Bora, and she had been quiet for most of the journey. She was a simple crew member, nobody important. But when she spoke, her voice was clear and strong. I was born on a station that was falling apart, she said. Every year something else broke. Every year more people died because we could not fix what was failing. My mother told me that we used to build ships that could travel between stars in days. She said our ancestors were the greatest builders the galaxy had ever seen. I grew up thinking that was just a story, a fairy tale, but then I came here. I saw the blueprints, I saw this ship, and I understood that it was all true. She pointed at Jin. You did not prune us, you wounded us, and wounds heal. Jin looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, and the expression was cold. So be it. You have chosen war. We will oblige. He turned and walked back to his shuttle. Before he could reach it, the sky lit up with fire. Had attacked. Her small fighter launched from the Dauntless, dove at the collective fleet like an insect attacking giants. She could not hurt them, but she could distract them. She could buy time. All hands to the sunrise, shouted. We finish now or we die trying. The shipyard became chaos. Collective weapons struck the ice above, shaking the entire facility. Pieces of ceiling fell. Machines sparked and failed. But the humans did not stop working. Engine 2 is online, Hoon yelled. Navigation is ready, called. Hull integrity at 90% and rising, reported. Outside fought alone against impossible odds. Her fighter twisted and dodged, avoiding weapon after weapon. But she could not dodge forever. She said over the radio, her voice calm despite everything. I cannot hold them much longer. How close are you? Almost there, said. Just a little more time. Then I will give you time. Aimed her fighter at the nearest collective vessel. For humanity, for the future. She did not try to dodge the next shot. On the shipyard floor, closed her eyes as her oldest friend died. But she did not stop working. She could not stop working. Sacrifice could not be wasted. Sunrise is ready, announced. His voice was hoarse with exhaustion and grief. She can fly. Everyone aboard, ordered. Now. They ran for the ship. The collective was breaking through the ceiling now, their vessels descending into the shipyard itself. But they were too late. The Sunrise's engines roared to life, and the great ship rose from its cradle for the first time in 400 years. Alon said, "Where is?" He was not aboard. He stood at a console in the center of the shipyard, his hands moving rapidly over the controls. "Oh, what are you doing? Get to the ship." "There is one more thing," said. His voice was strangely calm. "Told me about it, a final protocol, the inheritance." "What is the inheritance?" "Everything. Every blueprint, every technique, every piece of knowledge this shipyard contains. It is all stored in a transmission array. One signal and it broadcasts to every human settlement in the solar system. The collective cannot suppress it. They cannot stop it. Our people will have everything they need to build again. Then activate it and come aboard." Smiled sadly. "The array requires a manual activation. Someone has to stay behind to send it." Felt her heart break for the second time that day. "No, we will find another way." "There is no other way, and there is no more time." The collective vessels were entering the shipyard, weapons charging. "Go, take the sunrise. Take our people to the stars. Build the future our ancestors dreamed of." "Thank you for believing in me, for believing in all of us." He pressed the final button. "Now fly." The transmission went out. Across the solar system, receivers flickered to life. On Earth, on Mars, on Europa and Titan and a dozen stations and colonies, the signal arrived. The knowledge of the old builders, the secrets of the stars, everything humanity had lost returned in a single moment. The sunrise tore through the ceiling of the shipyard and into space. Behind her, the collective vessels tried to follow. But the sunrise was fast. Faster than anything they had seen from humans in 4 centuries. The great ship shot toward the stars like an arrow, like a promise, like hope made real. In the shipyard below, watched them go. Then the collective weapons found him, and everything turned to light. But he was smiling. They had done it. Against all odds, against an enemy that had controlled their fate for 400 years, they had won. Not through strength or violence, but through the simple, stubborn human refusal to give up. The sunrise was flying. The sunrise cut through space like a blade through water. Her engines burned brighter than any ship the collective had seen from humans since the forgetting. She was beautiful. She was impossible. She was everything the aliens had tried to prevent. Behind her, the collective fleet struggled to keep up. Their vessels were fast, but the sunrise was faster. 400 years ago, human engineers had designed her to outrun anything in the galaxy. Now, finally completed, she proved that their confidence was justified. They are falling behind, reported from her station. At this rate, they will lose visual contact within 3 hours. Stood at the captain's position and felt something strange. For the first time in her life, she was commanding a ship that was not dying. A ship that was strong and whole and capable of anything. Maintain speed, she said. Get us out of the solar system. On Earth, the inheritance signal was causing chaos. People gathered around receivers, watching the blueprints scroll across their screens. Engineers wept as they finally understood the mysteries that had haunted them their entire lives. In factories that had not operated for centuries, machines began to wake. On Mars, a group of young technicians used the new knowledge to repair a failing atmospheric processor. They had been told the device was beyond saving. Now they saw that it could not only be saved but improved. On Europa, an old woman looked at the plans for a faster-than-light engine and laughed. She had spent her entire life trying to understand fragments of such designs. Now she had the complete picture, and it was more beautiful than she had ever imagined. Humanity was waking up. The collective understood this. Jin, who had survived the battle at the shipyard, sent urgent messages to his superiors. They have everything, he reported. Every secret we tried to erase. They will rebuild within years, not centuries. We have failed. The response came quickly. Pursue the sunrise. Destroy it before it can spread further inspiration. We will deal with the colonies afterward. But dealing with the colonies was no longer simple. The inheritance had changed everything. People who had accepted their fate for generations now had hope, and hope was a dangerous weapon. On the sunrise, taught anyone who would listen. Hoon was his best student, but there were others now. Bora had discovered that she too carried the builder's gift. Several crew members showed aptitude they had never suspected. The spark that the collective had tried to extinguish was spreading like fire through dry grass. We need to establish a new shipyard, said during a planning meeting. Somewhere the collective cannot easily reach. Somewhere we can build in peace. The outer rim suggested. Beyond Neptune, the collective's presence is thin there. Too thin for us as well, pointed out. We need resources, materials, people. They argued for hours, but no solution seemed perfect. The collective was vast and powerful. Humanity was weak and scattered. Even with the inheritance, it would take years to build a fleet capable of defense. Then Jin contacted them. His face appeared on their communication screen, smooth and unreadable as ever. But something had changed in his voice. Something that sounded almost like respect. You continue to surprise us, he said. We thought the forgetting would end your ambitions permanently. We were wrong. What do you want? Asked coldly. To explain. Perhaps you deserve to know why we did what we did. We know why. You were afraid of us. Jin nodded. Yes, but you do not understand what we were afraid of. Our predictive models showed us your future. Do you want to know what we saw? Despite everything was curious. Tell me. We saw a species that would never stop expanding. Not through war or conquest, but through creation. You would build and build and build until you filled every corner of this galaxy. Then you would reach for the next one, and the next. In 10,000 years, There would be no place in the universe that did not bear your mark. That sounds wonderful, Bora said. That sounds like the greatest achievement any species could hope for. To you, perhaps. To us, it was terrifying. The collective has existed for millions of years. We have maintained balance across thousands of star systems. We have seen species rise and fall, expand and collapse. But we had never seen anything like humanity. Your rate of growth, your creative drive, your absolute refusal to accept limits. You were not just another species. You were a force of nature. They stepped forward. So you tried to stop nature. We tried to slow it. We never intended to destroy you completely. We thought that without Starship knowledge you would stay in your little solar system. You would have your one world and a few colonies. You would be safe, contained, manageable. Jin's voice turned bitter. We underestimated you. We always underestimated you. What happens now? Asked. Now everything changes. The inheritance cannot be suppressed. Your people are already building. Within 10 years you will have a fleet. Within 50 you will spread beyond this solar system. And within 100 you will be exactly what we feared. And the collective. Will you try to stop us again? Jin was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. I do not know. Some of my people will want to fight. Others will want to accept the inevitable. There may be war. There may be peace. But one thing is certain. He looked directly through the screen. The universe will never be the same. The communication ended. The sunrise flew on. 1 year later, the changes were visible everywhere. On Mars, the first new shipyard was operational. It was small compared to the ancient facility on Callisto, but it was growing every day. Ships were being built. Real ships. New ships. Ships designed by human hands using human knowledge. On Earth, the Orbital Authority had been reorganized into the Builders Guild. Hoon led it now, training new engineers, spreading the gift that had once been almost extinct. Every month, more people discovered they had the talent. The spark was not rare. It had simply been sleeping. On Europa and Titan and a dozen other places, factories hummed with activity. Resources that had been scarce for generations were now flowing freely as old mining equipment was repaired and improved. And in deep space, something amazing happened. The sunrise received a transmission. It came from the edge of the solar system, from beyond the orbit of Pluto, from a place where nothing human should exist. Attention, human vessel. This is the colony ship New Hope. We departed Earth before the forgetting. We have been traveling for 412 years. We received your inheritance signal and changed course. Is anyone there? Stared at the message with tears in her eyes. A lost colony. A ship that had escaped before the catastrophe. Humans who had never stopped building because they had never been attacked. She opened a channel. New Hope, this is the sunrise. We hear you. We are here. The voice that answered was human but different. An accent that had evolved over centuries of isolation. Sunrise, we have so much to share with you. We have been building in the darkness, ships, stations, new technologies. We thought we were alone. We thought Earth was dead. Earth survived, said. We all survived, and now we are building again. Then come to us. See what we have made. And together we will build something even greater. Looked at her crew, who had lost everything and found purpose again. Hoon, who had discovered a gift he never knew he had. Bora, who had spoken truth to an enemy and never backed down. Elder and all the others who had risked everything for this moment. And she thought of those who were not there, who had died buying them time, who had stayed behind to send the inheritance. Their sacrifice had made all of this possible. Set course for the new hope, she said. Let us see what our brothers and sisters have built. The sunrise turned toward the edge of the solar system. Behind her, humanity was rising. Shipyards on every world. Engineers in every colony. The spark of creation spreading from person to person like a beautiful infection. The collective had tried to stop them. They had burned libraries and killed engineers and erased centuries of progress. They had thought they could cage humanity forever. They were wrong. Because humanity was not just a species. It was an idea, a dream, a promise that no matter how dark things became, someone would always look up at the stars and think, I want to go there. And now they were going. The sunrise flew on toward the future, toward the unknown, toward infinite possibility. And across the solar system, a billion human voices whispered the same words. We build, we grow, we never stop reaching. This is who we are. This is who we have always been. And no one, not the collective, not time, not distance, not any force in the universe, will ever make us forget again. And humanity was building again. 24 hours, he said. We have 24 hours. Let us finish what we started. And in the shipyard that had slept for 4 centuries, the machines began to wake. Humanity was building again. Nobody could.